What we do here is go back, 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 back.
Testing, testing, 1 2 1 2. Can you hear me and or see me? I forgot to turn on the microphone. Well, I've turned on mine, I didn't turn on that one. It does happen. Can you all hear me now? Excellent stuff. Works now, working. Excellent. You muppet. Thank you very much for that, Linux. That is genius. Hey, there's always something that will go wrong. So thank you all for joining us on the stream tonight. Hopefully you can, I said, well, you didn't hear me, but I did say if you can hear me and or see me, let me know in the chat, just so we know that it's working and that it's syncing, etc, etc. Tons of things to go through tonight. We've got a lot of topics on the stream. No doubt, obviously, you would have been drawn in by the actual thumbnail, which is the Intel 0x129 microcode update, which was supposed to be the fix for Intel's 13th and 14th gen woes. Unfortunately, for me personally, it does appear to be somewhat of a Anakin Skywalker and has failed to bring balance to the Force. So, yes, it's not worked out as intended. So we'll go through that in some depth and let you know my experiences. There is going to be a standalone video, which I've already recorded, edited, updated, etc. That'll be coming out on Monday. So, yeah, for those of you that don't watch streams or for those of you who don't watch normal videos, you should still get the same information, which I actually think is genuinely important for a lot of people. And we were waiting for this to be the kind of the real part where Intel rights their wrongs and does right by the user. But yeah, it hasn't worked out as intended. Now, of course, other things that we will be discussing in the stream tonight, there is obviously AMD have launched their 9000 series range of processors, which have come out to very mixed reviews. If you're on the Australian side of the fence, then the reviews have been particularly lukewarm, let's say. Whereas some of the reviewers have been moderately positive. I don't think anyone has been overly ecstatic about the launch, and probably with good reason. So we'll discuss that a little bit more as we go through. Also, there are things we should talk about with Intel and AMD. What is going on with their marketing departments? What is the cause of it? Is this a delayed effect from a few years back when we all know what happened in the world? It was all a little bit topsy-turvy. Things went very wrong. Yeah. Is this all just somewhat of a hangover from that era? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on that. So I'm looking at my notes there as well. Also, AMD are launching 2 new graphics cards, the 7300 and the 7400, which look to be replacements possibly for the 6500 XT and also the RX 6600, which also are some of the products which AMD are actually cancelling at the moment and are officially stopping production of. So hopefully those are going to be suitable replacements at a suitable price point and also hopefully at a similar performance level. Although, as we've learnt from AMD and their marketing team, what they say and what actually arrives is generally two different things. So yeah, we can discuss that as well. Also, I sold the PC, which we did in the stream last weekend. So we did a stream on the Intel PC that would not sell and swapped over to AMD platform. And literally within 6 hours of me listing it on Facebook Marketplace, it sold for the full asking price. So extremely happy for that. And also, the person who bought it was actually the brother of someone who bought a PC previously. So obviously I'm doing something right, which is excellent. And also, Andy, if for any reason you are watching, which you probably aren't, you're probably enjoying yourself on a Saturday evening, but very happy belated birthday to you. What else we got? So there's a couple of other things that I'm not too sure if I'm going to broach too much. We've had some pretty sad news from a couple of sources this week about members of the kind of the extended MUB community, which I think has really knocked me this week actually, and Kath as well. Obviously, for us, you lot out there, the viewers, people that comment, people we speak to every day, some people we only speak to maybe once in a lifetime. All of you are important to us, and weirdly we do have a kind of an affection for you all. So when we hear of members of the MUB family which are going through it, various illnesses, etc., it really does hit hard. So yeah, this week for me has been actually particularly tough. So if some of the videos that come out subsequently I seem a little bit off kilter or not quite my usual effervescent self, then yeah, there is a good reason for it. Obviously I'm not going to say about it in every video, like, oh, I'm depressed today because, but these things do affect us. And we don't just see you as a number on a spreadsheet, you're all individuals, and we love you all. We really generally do. And when something happens to you, it's upsetting. So anyway, there's that. I don't think I'm going to name names, although if any of the people that are affected are in the chat or see the video and they want to make themselves known or whatever, then yeah, sure, go for it. That is entirely up to you. But I'm not going to name names because I don't think that's fair, especially when it's such a kind of a personal and catastrophic thing to be talking about. Anyway, also coming up review wise, we've got some Thermalright 240mm AIO coolers. I want to discuss that as well and what CPUs we should be testing that against. Clearly it won't be Intel because there's not much point these days. And also we've got some other stuff that we'll be reviewing coming up soon. So that is kind of like a broad outline of what we're going to be talking about tonight. And now that I've got that out of the way, let's head over to the chat and see who's in the room, who's with us. And also we've got some super chats as well, which we need to acknowledge. So first of all, thank you all so much for your kindness and generosity, especially at this time of year when everyone's feeling the pinch. The world is, yeah, it's not getting any easier. Bills are packing up, stacking up. They're doing all those things. Everything's getting more expensive. So for those of you that do find it in your hearts and in your wallets to help support the channel, we are very much appreciative of that. So thank you very much. Where do we see? So the first one was Mick Woods. Thank you, Mick Woods. £10 super chat there. And he says, good evening, Mike, Kath, and all. Looking forward to an entertaining and informative live stream. I'm not sure when that'll start, but we'll try and do our best. Thank you very much, Mick. Much appreciated. And there's a super chat also from Rick H. Thank you, Rick. He says, disco, disco, disco. I've actually, for those of you that are wondering where Bob is, I have heard from him. He's working on a top secret assignment out in sunny climes, so he's okay. He's got his gaming laptop with him, so he's all good. So yeah, for those of you that are concerned about Bob's whereabouts, being that he's been a little bit quiet recently, yeah, he's okay, and he isn't one of the people with the illness thing that, well, he might be, I don't know. He hasn't mentioned it, but as far as I know, he's working away and he's yeah, having the time of his life and hopefully topping up his tan whilst getting paid to do it, which is always good. What else? There was another one, I think, somewhere. Let me scroll down through.
It was a PayPal.
Oh, that was it. There was a PayPal come in from Matthew Day. Thank you very much, Matthew Day. He sent us a £6 PayPal donation. Thank you very much. And of course, you can do, if you want to make any donations to the channel, you're more than welcome to do so. You don't have to. Obviously, if you even just taking part, clicking on the like button, subscribing, all that kind of usual YouTube stuff is extremely helpful, as is going into your local computer store, PC World, Best Buy, Target, whatever. Go in, get Mike's Unboxing up on the screen and just leave it playing in the background. All helps to inflate the numbers somewhat. Although no doubt Google will probably get upset about that at some point. But there you go. And there's a super chat, another one from Rasher, €20. Thank you very much. And Rasher says, hello, lovely people. Hello, lovely Rasher. How you doing?
Dave's not a people.
Dave's not a people. He's a real life human cat. Aren't you, Dave? What are you looking at, bud?
The lights, is it?
You looking at the lights or are you looking at a bit of grass? He loves the lights. There you go. There is another selling tactic. Dave loves the flashy lights. So knock yourself tight with the super chats, ladies and gents. Oh dear. Bless him.
I think I said hi to
He's lovely.
Dutch Jam twice. I was unsure if I've done it.
So I've got a rally with us tonight. Jadist live. Kieran's with us. Angry Chinese woman. I actually nearly did the voice then, but I'm so glad I didn't because I don't think that's allowed these days. Atomic Sub, how you doing? Dave Aitken, how you doing, Dave? Dave took some really nice pictures earlier of the balloons going over. It is the weekend of the Bristol Balloon Fiesta, so potentially you'll see some pictures on the Discord. Dave, don't eat the cables. You're very cute, but don't eat the cables.
He's not eating cables, are you?
So yeah, if you want to see some pictures of the balloons from Bristol Balloon Fiesta from Mike's Unboxing members, head over to the Discord. You're more than welcome to. And in fact, I'll put a link in the chat right now. So if you want to do that, you are very welcome to do so. Unless you're asking stupid questions, in which case, go to Brightex server or someone else's. I jest. I'm joking. Don't go to Brightex. Dual Savic says the countdown has begun. How you doing? Good to see you. Mark Berry as well. Laurenti Margulette. Sorry about that. Mike's Unboxing Reviews. I've got a Montex Sky 2 GX Black and want to ask you how is best to install the fans from the back panel, the one that covers the wire management. I honestly have no idea. I can't even picture what that case looks like. My suggestion would be to you actually go over to our Discord and post a picture of it just to refresh my mind, and later on after I finish the stream I'll try and take a look and give you some advice. Or if anyone else in the chat wants to give you some advice, you're more than welcome to do so. That would be very helpful. Fantastic, thank you. So Rick H is with us, Smart Berry. How you doing, Rick? Hugh's with us as well. Says, hello, that's better. Yeah, rookie mistake. I've not been doing this long, apart from pretty much every Saturday for the last 6 years, maybe. Charles Ballard's with us. He's arrived, so you can let the pigeons loose and let the children sing. As long as the children are over 16, otherwise we have to have rules in place. Firestorm's with us. How you doing, Firestorm? T3 Chimp, how you doing? Rick Waybob says good evening to one and all. Rick, bless him. Rick has actually, he's a very long-term member of the Mub family, and recently, I'm not sure if, he probably won't mind me saying this, but it's too late anyway because it's live and I can't really retract it. But Rick actually had some very serious brain injury, brain surgery is the word I was looking for. And is recovering as we speak, and he's getting back up to speed a little bit more so now, and he started putting together a new PC. So without sounding condescending or anything like that, well done is what I'm saying. A few weeks ago, Rick, I was of the impression that you might not be around. I genuinely thought that. I didn't say anything, obviously, because you don't want to say that sort of thing, but it was very touch and go. So I, for one, and Kath, I think as well, would agree. We're very pleased that you're on the mend and you're getting back into the swing of PC building. So nice one, Rick. Long may it continue. Thank you for a super chat. Who is that coming from? That is Andy Archer. Bless you, Andy Archer. Top geezer. £20 super chat there. Says Dave for president. That's not a bad idea.
Shall be President Dave?
Imagine Dave all decked out with his stars and stripes. I think he'd probably aim for something a bit lower first. Maybe like UK Prime Minister. See how that goes, and then maybe go for world domination shortly after. That would be pretty cool.
Larry.
Yeah, he's better than Larry, that's for sure. Greg Dodd says, haha, I would never speak on here again if stupid questions were banned. Oh no, you can do them in the chat, that's absolutely fine, but on the Discord we have the ability to ban you very quickly. Or just ignore you. Andy Archer says he needs to paint his GPU white, Mike. He does. He does need to paint. Rick's got this really nice white build. It's mostly white. There's a few elements of black, but it's got this great big black RTX 4080 right slap bang in the middle. It needs white. It needs whiting out a bit. It's a bit too monolithic. A little bit of maybe some wrap on there, a white wrap around the outside. That'd be pretty cool. I just noticed this one. Endura Damsith. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I do apologise. So say Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To. Can you recommend AliExpress CPU, please? Actually, funny enough, if you look in the video description for this particular stream, there is a link to the absolutely fantastic AMD AM4 5700X3D, which is a cracking price. Very hard to recommend anything else other than that really on the AM4 platform, unless you just want to spend more money. But realistically, it's a cracking CPU. Lots of deals. Yes, Kath?
William Bodie said, what about Lucky Man? Did he win the lottery and puff gone?
Yeah, Lucky Man. We get that every now and then. You get people which are like around a long time. Lucky Man was one of those where his name was really, really badly conceived. He was the most unlucky person. He had multiple deaths in the family. He had his own issues as well. From what I can recall, I'm pretty sure he ended up semi-wheelchair bound.
The last I heard he was walking.
I think he's walking, but with a prosthetic leg. So yeah, he's gone through it as well. He's had a really, really tough time of it. So Lucky Man, wherever you are, God bless you. Hopefully you're okay. And obviously, we're always going to be here if you ever feel the need to come back to us, or if you can't, then God rest you. What else can I say? Really, it's an ongoing thing. As obviously the community gets bigger and bigger, more and more people, and the odds of people being ill or things happening to them, or perhaps even just bored. Yeah, it's potential. So anyway, there you go. Yeah, bless those peeps. Wishing them all the best. Thanks, JB Mods. Much appreciated. All the best to everyone. Positivity I think is a real key thing. Even though the world is like pretty much on a knife edge most of the time, if you watch the news, I make a really strict thing of trying to avoid TV at all. We don't even have a TV license. We don't watch TV. Obviously, you do see some news things come up on YouTube and people comment on stuff and what have you. So we've got an idea of what's going on in the world. But in general, I think if you leave it to one side, life is a lot better and a lot easier and less depressing, even though we have got problems with our processors. Anyway, so where else have we got? So yeah, hello to everyone who's joined us in the stream tonight.
Mark Berry's got some good news. He's off some of his medications.
Mark Berry's off some of his meds. Excellent stuff. Congratulations. I know medical science has a place, but for me personally, I'm a strong believer that the body can, to a large extent, heal itself if you give it the right nutrients, you look after yourself, and you've got the right positive mental attitude. I think that goes a massively long way to kind of healing the body and the spirit as well. So yeah, if you can prevent having to take artificial drugs, etc., if you can knock those out, there's always side effects to drugs. There always is, no matter what. So if you don't have to take them, then I think that's absolutely fantastic. So congratulations. That sounds really condescending, but hopefully you take it in the way that it's meant. Where else we got? J Rose says luck is a matter of perception. Yeah, I think you're probably right there, actually. Although in Lucky Man's case, I don't think it is perception. He's just unlucky. Aletta says, laughter pisses off pain and depression, so I laugh every chance I can. Luckily, that's why Kath is so healthy, because she has to sit in watching me make videos, in which case, when I do make a mistake, it's a good opportunity for her to piss herself, or especially if I've dropped something, or I'm cussing to myself. I'd imagine it cheers her up.
When you drop something,
Or she goes,
jump a mile every 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's true, yeah.
There it is.
Dutch Jan says, without my meds, I'd be dead now. Yeah, like I say, there is a need for certain things.
Okay, baby.
Rick Welly Bob says, love, laugh, and live. I agree. And there we go. We got some brightness back in the room. The sun is starting to set.
Otis came in.
I can't believe there's only, how many there are? I think there's less than 20. No, there's 22 Mondays left until Christmas. Let that sink in for a while. That's pretty scary. Christmas is closer now. then it will be sometime next year. I was trying to think out something then, but it just went. Ah dear. Well done. JB Mod says, the other day I called an ambulance for a suicidal neighbour, having a bad time of it. Hopefully I've saved a life. Awesome stuff. That's what we need. People looking out for other people. We're all human beings at the end of the day. Don't matter if you're what colour you are, what race you are, creed, whatever. It doesn't matter. We're all human beings ultimately. We should all be looking after each other. Greg Dodd says, I got some great advice on your Discord this evening. Bought some great priced RAM and advice given. I am actually really proud of our Discord. Yeah, sometimes it goes a little bit off the rails, but in general, it's a really, really good place to hang out. And actually, I should say as well, big shout out and thanks to all of you that are regular contributors, our moderators, our experts, anyone who's in there commenting, helping out other people. It's pretty cool. When I work on a Sunday and I'm not able to be on the Discord as much as I'd like to be, I do kind of check in periodically to see what's going on, and just to see it kind of ticking over and people being helped and being really cool to each other. It's excellent. I really do appreciate it. So yeah, for anyone that is contributing to our Discord and also to our community in general, thank you. Genuinely, thank you from the bottom of my heart, because it's too much for me to do on my own. It's too much for Kath to do on her own as well. Even
I don't know any tech stuff.
Even between the two of us, it's a really mammoth task. So for any of you that can get involved in the comments on the videos, if you watch a video and you're scrolling through the comments, if you can answer any questions, hey, even if your answer or your opinion is different from mine, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. We're all about a community of talking and having different ideas. So yeah, go for it. JB's Mod says, yeah, like Bill and Ted once said, be excellent to each other. Yeah, I agree. We should. I think life would be a lot easier if we were like that. Okay, right. Skystalker's in the chat. How you doing, Sky? Skystalker is another one, actually, who hopefully won't mind me saying too much, but he has been very, very much through the mill in terms of health-wise, and seems to be coming through the other side of it, and is still with us. God bless him. So Sky, hats off to you as well. So I think we should start off with what the stream topic was all about, because there's quite a few of you watching already, so obviously there is some interest in it, which actually I wasn't sure if there would be, because as far as I'm concerned, really, Intel, when we release an Intel video, generally it does very, very poorly indeed. The market share for our channel, and I think a lot of other channels as well, it's very, very heavily weighted towards AMD platform. So yeah, the Intel thing I think is interesting, because people just wanted to know what the hell is going on, and I'll be honest with you, even at this point now, I am still not sure. So you can probably tell from the thumbnail from the video, that was actually a still frame taken from me whilst I was filming the other video, and I was just very perplexed, really was. Quickly just acknowledge that, O'Reilly there with a £10 super chat, thank you very much. Much appreciated, sir. It says Discord community and the Mub IP would not be here if it was not for you, Mike. Long live Mike and the Mub family. And Kath, obviously, as well. Kath is the unsung hero here, because obviously she didn't get seen on camera. I guess it's like any kind of TV or... Oh, it's Cat coming in. Or any production at all. Obviously, when you see someone on a screen, that's who you kind of relate to and you know of. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And Kath is a massive part of that. So she is definitely the wind beneath my wings. I think that was a Betty Midler song. I think it's supposed to be about a bloke, but you get the general idea. But thank you very much for that, O'Reilly. Much appreciated. So, I'll quickly recap what's going on. So, Intel 13th and 14th generation processors. There seems to be a certain instability on some processors, not all of them. Should hasten to add that. So, if you're watching this or you watched the video on Monday and you've got an Intel platform at the moment and it's been running, you're not getting any weirdness, it's working as it should do, it's not overheating, all that kind of stuff, it's just working as it should do, then I would probably suggest not doing the microcode update. It is designed as a preventative measure. Whether or not it's going to be integrated in future updates as well, so eventually you'll have to have it. I'm guessing that probably will be the case, although I think at this early stage, most of the motherboard manufacturers, this is actually a beta update. Now, if you've tried this yourself and you're watching the stream, let me know, is yours a beta or was it a full-fledged release? For me personally, this one with the Asus Z790 Tough Gaming Wi-Fi BTF, it was categorically stated as a beta update, and also it specifically said that it was for non-K CPUs. It didn't mention K CPUs at all, which I thought was a slight odd thing, being that the whole point is that it's supposed to be for K series CPUs, which are generally a higher TDP. Anyway, thank you, Cheerzo, for becoming a Mike's Unboxing supporter. Much appreciated. And of course, if any of you want to help support the channel, you can get channel membership, you get early access to videos, and also you get access to some of the emojis in the stream, which nobody uses, but you can do if you want to. Hey, you've paid for it, you might as well. But yeah, you do get early access to videos as well, which I think some people really do like and do appreciate. Happy days. So yeah, the microcode update is supposed to be a supposed fix for the instability problems. So it's one of those things that you probably do want to install it, but my system personally with the 13900K has always been very stable. I do the video editing on it basically every day of the week, so that is a strenuous task in itself when you're rendering out content, etc. Also, it doubles up as my gaming PC, so when I'm not working I play games on it, and also I use it all day long for things like YouTube comments, Discord. It's a multi-monitor setup, so I've got my main display, I've also got a separate side display for Discord, so I can keep an eye on that whilst I'm doing other things. So it's a general purpose workhorse, and normally I would say on an average day it probably gets turned on somewhere around about sort of 10 o'clock in the morning and generally gets turned off around about midnight. So it's a good 14 hours a day that PC's on. So there's plenty of opportunity for instability, crashes, etc, etc. So it is a PC which is in use. Now I do find this with some YouTube channels. I'm not going to mention any names because no one actually is specifically to blame for this, and I'm probably have the blame myself, where you get a platform, you review it, you do videos on it, but it's not your daily driver. So yeah, even though you've got a reasonable experience of it, it's hard to give a honest and real world use case scenario of how the platform actually behaves. So for me, you can rest assured the 13900K platform and the Z790 platform is in use 14 hours plus a day, 7 days a week, all the time. So if there was any instability or any issues, they certainly would have arisen by now. Thank you as well for somebody.
It is Skystalker.
Skystalker. You sent his
not technically
his super sticker.
Yeah.
That's it. You get free super stickers as well if you're a member. And Skystalker has been a member now for 35 months.
That deserves the light.
That is almost 3 whole years. Massive thanks to your long-term support. And for all of you that do. And
Skystalker was here a lot longer than 3 years ago.
Sky was in from almost the beginning. Aletta, Sky. I'm trying to think of who else is in with us currently who was in very, very early doors. Maybe Gary S, possibly.
Maybe.
There's probably others. If I miss anyone out, I do apologise, but those are the ones which stick out. Anyway, so where did I get to? I've gone off topic now. So yeah, instability, right. So just to give you kind of like an overall view of my system, you've probably seen it anyway from the video review I did. So it's a Thermaltake Sirius 330 case, BTF edition. I've got I think it's an 850 watt power supply in there at the moment. It's a RTX 4070 Ti Super, again BTF model because it's BTF motherboard. 32 gigs of RAM, again Thermaltake, 7200 megatransfers per second. So I would consider it a high-end system, and if there was going to be any instability, it would happen. And also I will say, I generally tend to use my PC. I do change the settings every now and then, but I have recently, probably for the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, I've been using the Asus performance profile rather than using the Intel defaults, because whenever I've done a BIOS update and I've used the Intel defaults, the performance has just tanked completely, and I think it's overly aggressive. And being that the fact that I haven't had any issues with the platform, I think to myself, well, I'm not noticing any performance degradation, because obviously I run things like Cinebench, 3D Mark, all those kinds of tests. I do them on a regular basis. So you can always see if there's going to be any drop off in performance. Normally it's like if you install Armoury Crate or something like that, you see a little bit of a tail off in performance because it's another processor heavy task or background task. So I can kind of gauge where my CPU should be. So generally in a Cinebench load, I should normally be scoring somewhere around about somewhere between 37,000 points and 40,000 points. 40,000 points I've done once or twice, but those were settings which I didn't feel entirely comfortable with. They were totally unrestricted, and I had to go down, close off things like OneDrive, Discord, basically close down all the programs I possibly could just to squeeze out all that performance. I think I even turned off core isolation as well. Like basically balls to the wall, what can I get this thing to do without actually overclocking it? So recently I've been getting scores of about 38,000, which have been exactly where it should be for the processor. And that's with core isolation running, background tasks, got all the Adobe software, you've got OneDrive, etc, etc. So 38,000 and change is an expected score. Yes, Gav?
Which motherboard did it break?
It did break this one, the Asus PTF. But, spoiler alert, it's still working now. So it broke it, but I fixed it. I remedied the situation, which we'll go through. And again, you'll see in the video in a much shorter version anyway. So the BIOS update, I went in, I did all the benchmarks, and I've actually got them here. I printed them out in some charts as well. I've actually got it as an Excel spreadsheet, so in a minute we'll go over to the desktop and you can see the results for yourself and see what I've been testing. It's probably the easiest way for me explaining to you what's happened. So I've done BIOS update, so I did some benchmarks with my original setup, which was using the Asus performance profile with all the limits. The limits were in place, but not strictly adhered to. And also there is a very minor undervolt of 0.05 millivolts. So basically half a volt. Is that right? Or half a millivolt? I'm not too sure. It's 0.05 anyway. So it's a very, very small thing. So if your VRM's running at 1.35, it's basically running at 1.3. So it's, yeah, not a tenth, it's a hundredth, isn't it? I'm not too sure. Anyway, you know what I mean. You'll see it on the screen. Yes, Kath? Erwin. Mike, I am your long-term sponsor, but I can't donate you Super Chat because that function is not supported in my country. Is there any alternative way to donate? There's a list of ways you can do it in the chat. You can also send us a PayPal payment if you've got PayPal. Other than that, you can just do things like buy merch or buy a mouse mat, not this specific one. You can buy the Mike's Unboxing mouse mats from Technically Stable. They take payments from around the world and will ship globally as well. So if you want to do that, you can do. There's various ways of doing it. Read in the video description. There's tons of ways you can do it. But thank you for the support. 50 millivolts. Thank you, AJ. Much appreciated. That's what I wanted to say. Right. So that is where we're at. So I've done 4 lots of testing. So I started off with the before, which is my own settings, which have been working fine. Then
how many people in the stream William wants to know?
Oh yeah, people are interested. So also I've done the new microcode update, then using the stock recommended settings from Asus. So that is essentially kind of adhering to the Intel limits. You'll probably see why in a minute, but that wasn't going to cut it for me for multiple reasons. So then I did the same settings but with an undervolt, and then I didn't like those settings at all, so I actually reverted back to the Asus optimized but also still undervolted. So again, that 50 millivolts undervolt for my final round of tests, and also what is currently running on my system. Now, if you want to see what my BIOS settings are, I can hook up my PC to the display capture so you can see my BIOS settings and see what I've set. It's relatively straightforward. Essentially, it's XMP is turned on, The ASUS performance profile is enabled. The ASUS performance enhancement is also set to auto, although I would probably recommend turning that off. It makes very little difference. And the only other thing I did after was a very slight tweak, which was turning off enhanced thermal velocity boost. So effectively now my CPU won't go to 5.8 gigahertz, which it only does on 2 cores anyway in certain loads, but it will still hit 5.5 on all cores through all core loads. So you're looking at 4.3 gigahertz for the efficiency cores and 5.5 on the performance cores, and of which running tests, all of those are locked in exactly as they should be. So well, you'll see from the results there isn't really much of a performance penalty. My biggest issue is the fact that the microcode update actually, well, it tanked performance, and also it did bring in instability, crashing apps, some things wouldn't load at all, but also weirdly it did bring in some lag as well, which I really struggled to actually capture. And I actually looked to see if my capture software at the time was in like something like 15 frames per second, because it just, you could kind of see the mouse just kind of almost ticking across, which was not a good look. It felt awful. So actually, again, going back to what I said earlier, if you've got a stable system and it works and it does what you want it to, I would probably strongly advise not doing the Intel update at present. Now, also since I've made the video and also done some further research this afternoon, I have noticed that potentially, surprise, surprise, this could potentially be more of an ASUS thing than it is with some of the other board manufacturers. Now I know Jay's 2 Cents actually did a similar type of video using an MSI motherboard, and he didn't really experience much of a performance penalty. Now, I'm not entirely sure what his settings were previously, what he's reset his BIOS to, and what it currently is, but he experienced a much better overall experience than I did. So just wanted to put that out there. And of course, there's going to be other manufacturers and other channels. I have seen one channel, actually, I did read it, I think it might have been TechSpot, but they did an update and they lost 24% of performance. So they went from a CPU score in Cinebench 39,000 down to around about 30,000. So that's a massive drop. That's huge. If I had that sort of drop, I would be very concerned. So to kind of summarize, I think it is very much still a work in progress. The microcode update, I think, is heading in the right direction, but I don't think this saga is anywhere near coming to an end. At least not for the foreseeable. Hopefully Intel and the board manufacturers are going to knock their heads together and kind of get rid of all the kind of the weirdness. And hopefully, eventually, it's going to be a case where they can have the microcode update in place to reduce the stress on the processor, if that is indeed what is causing this, but also for us not to lose any performance and even potentially be able to tweak a little bit more out of them. But as with everything, time will definitely tell. Yes, Kath? Erwin. Is it okay to simply limit the power consumption of the GPU/CPU instead of undervolting? You can if you want to, yeah. Power limitation is sometimes the way to go, although with undervolting, you generally tend to maintain your clock frequencies, or they possibly will increase due to the thermal constraints and also the power limits. Whereas if you are limiting power, your processor is probably still being slightly inefficient, so it's going to clock down some of the frequencies, so you're going to get less performance. So for me personally, I think undervolting is probably the way to go, but certainly putting a hard cap on your wattage limits or your amps is another way of doing it, but I don't think it's quite as good a way of doing it. Let's have a look at Russell. Russell. Frame Chasers found that the micro just caused the idle state more aggressive and to last a little bit longer. Now that's funny you should mention that, Russell, and thank you for commenting on that. That was something which I noticed actually, is certainly the idle wattage was a little higher after the microcode update. Now I didn't have any before and after specifics or screenshots or any kind of anything like put my finger on and say, right, here we are, here is evidence it was lower then than it is now. I don't have that. I wish I had done now, but I didn't. Nothing which would be concrete anyway. But certainly my system platform, normally when it was idling, it would be somewhere around about the sort of 10, maybe 12 watts, maybe 15. Whereas now I've noticed it does seem to hold on to the clocks a little bit longer possibly, and certainly it wasn't unusual to see wattages in idle states of between 15 to 35 watts, which actually ironically then puts it almost in exactly the same ballpark as AMD. So there is that to it as well. But yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I'm glad you said that because I almost forgot it. Tamara, hi Mike, my name is Tamara Gates. I'm wondering if there is going to be a software that will erase the hard drive in Windows 11. If there is a new software, please let me know. I'm not too sure what your question is there. There are many pieces of software which will erase a hard drive in Windows 11. You can use various things. I'd say join our Discord if you want specifics, but you can use DOS commands, command prompts. You can use things like Disk Genius. Any of the recent programs which we've done on disk cloning, all of those pretty much have a disk erasing feature in it as well. So if you want to do that, if you want to erase it to like a military standard, there's Red Key USB you can get, which will basically nuke a drive. But there's DBAN as well, that will do it. There's various ways of achieving that. Great. Excuse me. That went down the wrong way. Let me grab a drink. That's what happens when you try to inhale and exhale at the same time. That's better. Okay, what was I about to read? Markovsky says I like to undervolt and run all cores at full clock speed. Yeah, I think that's probably the way to go. Like I said, my PC is on 14 hours a day. So obviously I have to be looking at power efficiency. There's nothing else I can really say about that other than the obvious. So that is why I've got an NVIDIA graphics card, because the idle on that is again about 5 watts or something ridiculous, 5 to 10 watts. The CPU was idling at sort of similar, sort of 10 to 15. So my system idle for the main two components was about kind of 30 to 40 watts, which is excellent. Whereas like my AMD system, the CPU is going to be idling at about 35, 40 on its own. Then the graphics card, they generally don't idle very low either, so you're probably getting close to 100 watts idle. So it is a massive difference in terms of your platform. Def0420, I haven't updated the new microcode yet. I'm worried it wasn't tested enough. Plus I haven't had issues with my 14700K, no funky voltage or high spikes. Should I hold off on updating for a while? Yeah, I've said this earlier in the stream, so my apologies for those of you that have heard already. That is basically my key thing. If you have a stable system and it's working and you're not noticing any form of degradation or instability, you don't need to do the update. At least not yet. Possibly wait a while. Wait for the kind of dust to settle. This is a really new thing and it's been arguably rushed out, which I think is probably why I've had the problems I've had. Anyway, with that in mind, let's have a look at the results that I've got here. So I've got a spreadsheet up here. You're probably not going to be able to see it particularly well, so my apologies for that. But let's do it anyway. Where is my button? There we go. Where are we? Stream desktop. That's the one. There you go. So it's a really basic spreadsheet. So I just run the tests, put the scores in, and then I've got some charts underneath to show for it. So we've got the bar states on the left, so the before with my own settings. Underneath that, we've got the new microcode with the stock settings. Then we've got the new settings with a slight undervolt, the 50 millivolt undervolt. And then I reverted back to the AMD optimized BIOS settings and also the automatic APE or, oh God, what do they call it? Performance enhancement. So you can see there, CPU Z, single core scores. That's the one I was looking for. Thank you. So as you can see, there was very little difference, although I did notice that with the new microcode, we were ending up with a higher score and it was consistently higher. So my theory with that is the fact that because what they're trying to do, I believe, with this microcode update is to prevent the single cores just running away and grabbing loads of voltage, wattage, however you want to define it. So in small loads, or 1 or 2 core performance loads, the Intel processor will look at the thermals, will look at the power available, and will be like, well, we've got nothing else going on, so let's just go full guns blazing at this particular task. Which is problematic, because sometimes you'll try and draw way too much power, which from an architectural point, as far as I'm aware, with the Intel processor, the way the power is kind of distributed around the cores, the I/O dies, etc., etc., it's like a ring bus which goes around the CPU area, and also obviously the chiplets and all that kind of stuff. Very much like in a household. So if you've got sockets on the wall, you've got like a ring main which goes around in a loop, and all the sockets run off it. So you know that there's a certain amount of wattage that you can get in your electrical sockets in your home. If you plug in too many sockets or too many devices on the same ring main, what happens? You trip a fuse, or you potentially damage your wiring. Now, I'm pretty much high 99% high 99% of theory that is what the problem is. So this ring bus, which Intel are using around their CPU, is trying to push too much power into those small cores and those bursty loads, which is really evident because a lot of people are having problems with either single core loads or things like when you're loading into a game such as Fortnite, which is really, really processor intensive, but only on a couple of cores, because you're doing a massive decompression of what is being downloaded, or you're expanding the maps or textures or whatever it is. And especially when going into games as well, because you're then buffering an absolute ton of data from the CPU into the GPU and vice versa to obviously create a display. So this all makes a lot of sense. So that is why with the new microcode, we've actually got a better score, because the single cores are now slightly throttled back, which means they can perform better. Now that sounds probably like contradictory, but actually with a processor, if you can provide it less power, generally it's going to perform better, especially when it's being under demand. It's getting the balance right so that it's got enough power, and then when the load drops, that the voltage drops and the rest of the system can compensate. So with that said, if we look at the next section, that's the wrong one, Stream Desktop. So if we look at the multi-core, so we're actually seeing what is going on here. So beforehand, we had a pretty good score there of 16852.2. With the new update, we then dropped down quite considerably, like 700 points. So this kind of validates what we're saying. So we're putting less power into multi-core work, but we're allowing the single cores to actually kind of ramp up a little bit more. But we're being more conservative on the multi-cores, which is going to hold them back slightly. That is then borne out with the Cinebench scores, because again, that is an all-core load. So we started off with a pretty decent score there, 38351, which is exactly where it should be with all the apps and bits and pieces I've got running in the background. That is absolutely fine and expected. Again, to kind of validate what we were seeing in CPU-Z, we then dropped another 2,000 points there, which wasn't much of a drop. So that's absolutely fine. Yes, Kath?
Lucky man's in.
Lucky man's in the house. Oh my God. Happy days. I will speak to you very shortly. Next after that, we did the undervolt. Now, I can see here we're losing score across everything. So my thoughts are, with the microcode being as restrictive as it is to the cores, when we're doing single core loads there with the undervolt, we're actually getting to the point of diminishing returns. So we're actually starving the processor a little bit of its fuel in terms of wattage or amperage, or voltage rather, sorry. So again, then we got another 200 points drop, because the new microcode is basically ground zero, and with the undervolt, we're kind of digging in the dirt, which is not great. So again, we lost another, well, like 500 points there. So that dropped right down. Also, when we take a look at our time spy score, so the first time spy score, it's actually quite stable all the way through. The best time spy score was the first one with my original settings. As you can see there, there is a big fat 0. Now the reason for that big fat 0 is because I could not get Time Spy to run an entire test without the system locking up, crashing, blue screening, or just weird stuff happening. I was getting all kinds of bizarre things happening. It was lucky actually I was running the capture card in a separate PC to try and capture what was on the screen, because otherwise I would have lost everything. But yeah, hardware monitor, I would try and open that and that would crash, or it would just show a blank screen but with hardware monitor on the top. It didn't say the program had crashed, it just wouldn't continue running. So it was having troubles actually talking to the system. I don't know why. TimeSpy as well, I'd run it and it would crash. It'd get to like somewhere in the CPU test. So the GPU tests would work fine. As soon as we hit it with a CPU test, that was when we'd have the problems. So we know straight away that the problem isn't loading the textures there into the graphics buffer, because it's happening, it's running the graphics tests, and they would continue, they would complete. But we get to the CPU test, and within 10-15 seconds of starting the test, it would just crash the program out, either blue screen or just go back to the desktop. And then I would try and open up TimeSpy again, and it would say that TimeSpy is already running. And it's like, well, it's not, because it's gone, it's disappeared. So there was some real weird stuff happening there. So that is why I'm saying with the new microcode update, you get slightly better single core scores. Yes, we've seen that. But you get worse multi-thread scores in Cinebench, and also a less aggressive test. So that's going to mean your system's going to be slower overall. Not a great deal, but certainly a little bit. And TimeSpy or any CPU intensive task would generally not do well or crash out completely. So that is why I'm saying don't do the update at the moment. Certainly if you've got the same motherboard as me, definitely don't do that. Obviously those are people that have done it with MSI boards and other boards and it's worked okay. Part of it, I guess, is the silicon lottery to some extent, but I do believe that the microcode for this particular motherboard has been rushed out. Whether or not it's the same across all of the ASUS boards, I don't know, but other people have been saying that there is something not quite right with the ASUS update. So hence why I went back to the ASUS optimized and undervolted version, which got us a slightly less single core score, because we're now restricted to 5.5 gigahertz rather than 5.8. Although realistically you're probably not going to get that anyway. The multi-core score was the best of the bunch at, there we are. So CPU-Z multi-core was slightly better than the original one. So I do mostly multi-core loads, so it's great. And the Cinebench score was actually the best that I'd achieved of the day at 39,314. I have had 40,000, I've broken 40,000, I posted it in the Discord a while back, so that's fine. When it came to the TimeSpy score, again, these are really close anyway. And as you can see from the graphs there, it kind of does look a little bit like it's more of a jump than it actually is, but it's a very few percentage points. So for me, the ASUS optimized but undervolted is inherently more stable and it works better for me. That may not be the issue for you, but it was for me. So there you go. That is the results that I was getting. Again, it's a really difficult thing to say, like, not everyone's going to get the same problems, because all silicon works slightly differently, all motherboards have slightly different characteristics, different power supplies, different cooling, different ambient temperatures, etc, etc. So these are purely my own experiences. Yours may be completely different. And hopefully, at least by seeing this, if you are doing the update in your system and you're experiencing problems, at least you can turn around and say, right, I know why this is happening. It's something which is possible to happen. And you can quite happily go back to using the ASUS settings, just obviously know what you're doing and ideally apply some undervolt. I would suggest that to everybody. If you're running any Intel 12th, 13th or 14th gen processor, a very small undervolt will do the world of good, because you're going to reduce down that voltage. You're also going to increase the longevity of your processor, in theory, and also you're likely to get better performance as well. So it's excellent. There is Erwin. He's been a member for 8 months. Thank you. He says, how are your cats doing? They're doing very well. We've got 6 of them now. So Maisie, Flame, I think they're outside. Dave was here just now. Otis is upstairs in our bedroom window, sleeping. Oh, has he gone out now, has he? Candy's on the stairs, I think.
She's out.
Oh, well, don't listen to me. We've got 6 cats. They're all doing great.
Poppy Dora.
And Poppy as well. Sorry, I forget about her.
She's their mother.
Okay, let's have a look at some of your comments now because I've not been paying a great deal of attention to that. And also, I did hear Lucky Man was in the house. Where are we? Okay, that's where we got to before. So, Hoves says the i5 K series has been good enough for years. Yeah, they have been actually. Yeah, the i5 is. I've been, other than the 13900, I had the 13500 for a long time, and then I went to the 13900K, and those have been great because obviously I do video editing, so Intel, Adobe, you can't go wrong. Thank you. AJ Evercamp says I only trust a hammer to erase a hard disk drive. That'll get the job done. Markovsky says Ryzen Master is pretty cool, but you can do all that stuff through the BIOS. I actually don't like Ryzen Master. I've done a couple of videos on it previously, and I always found the results to be not entirely what I was expecting, or like, especially when it came to doing the precision boost overdrive settings and the undervolting, it was given like some crazy values which didn't appear to be realistic at all. And when I actually applied those values to the BIOS, it was a complete nightmare. So I prefer just to go into the BIOS and do it myself now. It isn't that difficult if you know what you're looking for. Ordinary Dude says my 13700T goes up to nearly 1.2 under load. Idles around 0.8 volts. That's pretty good. I quite often see mine heading towards like 1.4. Sometimes, I think all core loads is somewhere around about the 1.25 to 3. On lower loads, it's about 1.35, and sometimes I can see it go up to 1.4. I have had it go up to like 1.5, 1.6 on various different BIOSes years ago, but with the undervolt, it does seem to keep that a little bit more under control. Only a little bit though. Where do we get to? Erwin says, hey Mike, thanks for recommending the Thermaltake Series 300, just behind you. After using it for 4 months, the system is very, very clean. That is something actually which I was surprised at. The Series 500, which I've got behind me, and the Series 330, which I've got over there, they stay really clean. I wasn't expecting that, because you'd think that, like most normal PC cases, they just get grubby after time, but considering like the amount of work we do in here, obviously got cats as well. The kitchen is over there, so we've got all the kitchen stuff going on, like cooking smells, cooking fat. When you burn stuff, you get all the debris and stuff. But yeah, the PC is looking very good indeed. Yeah, the air filtration on the series range is really good.
Where do we say cats? They don't really make much mess.
Well, they got the fur and dander, aren't they? Ashley Strachan says, good evening all. Holy crap, it's still summer-ish. Yeah, make the most of it.
In batches of days.
Met Prism says, AMD CPUs have low idle power draw, but their GPUs are still high idle power draw for RDNA 3. AMD CPUs are really high wattage draw compared with the 13th and 14th gen. They get down very, very low, especially with those E-cores, because they're basically like 1 or 2 watts each, and they can get down really low. Thank you for the super chat, Mark Barry. Much appreciated. YouTuber bonus. Thank you very much.
Oh, this light is awful.
I know. I'm getting pissed off with that switch. Where do I get to? Hoove says, okay, I'll take your advice. No more BIOS updates until Xmas. I don't think it's going to take quite that long. We'll see. Dutch Jan says, Asus mic, not AMD. Sorry, what did I say? Yeah. I get these things. I said in the video going out on Monday, I said at the end, it's going to be a work in progress. But because I was talking about processors so much, I said it's going to be a work in process, which kind of still makes sense because we're still processing the information. But yeah, I noticed that after when I was editing. Kath noticed it straight away.
I thought it was like Richard
Rasher, thank you very much for the €10. YouTuber added bonus. You guys, you kill me with your kindness. Droner says, nice Rolex. This watch is one of the cheapest watches I've ever owned. But I get more comments about this watch than I do anything else on the channel at the moment. It's ridiculous. This watch was £20 on Amazon. It's made by a company called, called Biden, which I'm not overly keen on having that on there, but it's actually quite small, the actual text. I'll show you. It's actually a really nice little watch. So hopefully you can see that just about, if it's going to focus. It's pretty good. It hasn't got a sweeping hand or anything, so it's not like a direct Rolex click. Excuse me. Yeah, it's a nice watch. I had another one before which was very similar, but it died. I went to adjust the time and the crown fell out, so yeah, that wasn't great. So there is that. Where did I get to? Lucky Man says, hi all, hi Kath, how you doing, Lucky Man?
He's been moving house.
Ah, excellent. Good, I'm glad you're okay and you're still with us. I had a really bad feeling that you might not be. And it's like, you don't want to have thoughts like that, but sometimes when you don't see people for a while, it is a little bit scary. Where do you get to? Yeah, so no BIOS updates basically. I think if you're on MSI boards, you might be alright. I still do have a soft spot for MSI motherboards, I really do. I've still got MSI motherboard in the PC behind me. I can't get away from them at all. But yeah. Asus. I don't know what it is with Asus. They do some really nice hardware, but they just suck at software. They really do. Okie dokie.
Nick says watch has to be cheap as you're on your second watch this year. But like 20
Yeah.
quid. you could get like
It's 20 quid,
5
yeah.
or 10 a year. Be the same as a. How much are Apple watches now?
Apple Watches are like 200 quid, I think, aren't they?
So you could get 10 of them a year.
Yeah. I've actually got a Fitbit 5.
Charge 5.
Yeah, Fitbit Charge 5, which I bought brand spanking new. I used it for a review video and it's been put back in the box ever since. So if anybody wants a Fitbit Charge 5, let me know. I'll do a good deal on it because it's just sat on the shelf doing nothing. Markovsky, I ordered the test rig you did a video on, Mike. It came today, but not setting up yet. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's literally just out of the shop there. We haven't got a lot of room in this little studio space, so there it is. Still there. Got a little thermal tape power supply in there, which is awesome.
Ratcher was watching videos on YouTube about vintage watches. George has traded his Fitbit in for a Casio.
Yes, they are. He is. AJ Haverkamp says, your wall sockets are not in a loop. They are all connected to a central point. They're on a ring main. They are connected to a central point, but that point kind of goes out and around. And I guess it doesn't matter if they're in a loop or not, but the analogy I was trying to get across is the fact that if you've got a loop and you overload it, or even if it's a straight line for that matter, if you overload it, it's going to cause problems. That's what I was trying to explain.
Jay Gordon said UK diff to us.
Yeah.
Assuming that's.
Erwin says, what was your least successful purchase ever? Mine was buying the pre-built PC with an extreme and unplayable coil whine. My least successful purchase? I'm not too sure. There's probably been a couple. No, I can't think of one specifically. Nothing really stands out as being like, oh my god, that was awful. I suppose the GT 1030s, which were ridiculous. I paid £100 for those at the time. That was ridiculous. And probably the AMD RX 6500 XTs. I bought 2 of those as well.
What about those GHD straighteners?
Oh, we bought some GHD straighteners. They were a bit useless.
But the RGB earring was good.
Yeah.
Where is that?
Yeah, I think it's on my desk somewhere. Anyway, Hoof says my 13600K is flawless. Awesome stuff. Oh, and happy birthday, Lucky Man. Lucky Man says, anyone except me having problems with DirectX 12? I don't. No, not that I can think of. I probably don't even know if I'm using DirectX 12, to be honest with you, because it's just like whatever the game wants to use, is just go for it. Blossom 12 says, is the 13100F affected? I don't think it is. Because it's a lower wattage part, I don't think it is affected. I could be completely wrong, but I'm reasonably sure that any of the processors which are on the, is it the B0 or C0 step-in, I think it's the 13500 and below are okay, completely. The 13600 up are potentially problematic.
Go the other direction, you've got loads below.
I'm trying to.
Thought you were going up.
Bikeman 17 would replacing my Kingston MV2 1TB NVMe SSD be a good move with a Crucial 500 PCIe 4 for boot drive and make Kingston 1TB as a game NVMe. I don't know. I don't think you're going to see a huge amount of benefit with that, really. I used to always do that. I used to always split my drives and have one for the operating system and one for games. I don't always do it now, and I'll be honest, between the systems that I do and I don't really see a great deal of improvement in terms of raw performance. The only thing I see really is more so the convenience factor. So if I want to do a reinstall, I can just reinstall that one drive, and then I've still got all my games where they were on the D drive. And most of the time, you can kind of refine the games in things like Steam and Epic and what have you. So yeah, there's a little bit of convenience to be had there. I don't think you'll see any real improvements either way, to be honest with you. Def0420 says, I have the Z790 Dark Hero. Very nice. Let's have a look.
Pioneer asks, can I have a problem with my 13900 KS?
Yes, you can definitely have a problem with the 13900 KS. In fact, the KS is probably the one which is so balls to the wall that it's the most likely one to have a problem. Where are we going? I'm going to have something to eat or something a bit thicker in my throat because I still want to cough. Excuse me, I'll be back shortly. Actually, what have I got? Let's have some yogurt, that'll do. Carry on talking amongst yourselves. I'm just in the kitchen. A bit. Oh, yeah, that went down the wrong way as well. I thought that was a bit of lettuce hanging out of the freezer then, but it was a cat toy.
I thought that was a leaf on the floor.
Right, so there we go. Viali says my 011 Evo stays dust free. Good, glad to hear it. Stellar says I have a 14700K. During boot my PC reaches 70 plus Celsius. Is that normal? I wouldn't say it's normal. It's not entirely abnormal. But if it's during boot, I would say you possibly either haven't got your CPU cooler attached correctly or firmly enough, or if you've got an AIO, maybe you haven't got the pump set up to be quite fast enough. Maybe it's using some sort of software control, so because the software hasn't kicked in, the pump isn't kicking in quite enough. If it comes down to a normal temperature after, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But check the mounting pressure, and the mounting is level.
Carl's got his Ducky Zero keyboard.
Awesome.
You weren't wrong about it being an offensive weapon. Stunned how heavy this weighs.
It is ridiculously heavy. Nate Barnes says, I totally agree. My Series 300 stays very clean. Assume it's due to the multitude of filters. Yeah, the front filters do a really good job. And yeah, this the Ducky keyboard is very heavy. Excuse for a swig of beer, says Rasher. Yogurt noises intensifies. Yeah, sorry about that. Cyberclue says Intel should change their slogan from Intel Inside to This is Fine. Garfield says, what went wrong with the BIOS update? Well, to kind of... it basically made the system really unstable and slow, which was the exact opposite of what it was meant to do. It was supposed to improve system stability and possibly stabilize performance, but it did neither. It actually made it considerably worse, so much to the point that Time Spy would not finish running at all. And actually, I think if I can I log into it? I think I can. Time Spy. If I can log into my results, where are we? I can never find how to get into this website. Sign in. Yeah, I haven't got my user account details on this PC, so no, I won't be able to show you. But yeah, basically I went through and there's like, you see my scores, and then you've got 0, 0, 0, 0. It's just not a good look. It would not complete a loop. Carl G, Ethan, Mike and Kath, hope you're both well. Received my Ducky Zero keyboard today after watching your review. You weren't wrong about it being an offensive weapon. Stunned how heavy this weighs. Sorry, I have repeated that, but it's worth saying again. I do like the Ducky Zero. I've actually got the... actually, I'm not sure if I showed this in the last stream or not. I've also got the Keychron K10 Pro. And surprisingly, this thing is a lot heavier. Like, a lot heavier. I think this has got to be getting on for about 3.5 to 4 pounds. It's a proper unit. So if I drop it on the desk, you can tell it's like a shock absorber. It's so heavy it doesn't want to do the rebound thing. But yeah, this is an absolute unit, much heavier. And there will be a review out. I've actually had to do a modification on it because the spacebar was horrible, but now sounds great. It had a real bad ring to it, ping to it, so I put some tape on the inside of it, and it's considerably better. Right, Hoof says i9 and i799 run insanely hot, hence why I do the undervolting. That does bring the temps down. I should mention as well, my system has only got a 280mm rad, not even a 360, and it's not a custom loop or anything, it's just a relatively standard 280. David Underhill says, made any more things on the Bamboo Lab A1 Mini? I have made another keyboard stand, which is just here. A friction fit keyboard stand with a little tray. So when I'm doing reviews and stuff, I can stick it on the stand. And if there's anything I need behind it, like a dongle, I can leave that on the little tray.
But best of all,
A little bit of storage. Oh, and yeah, I made a ping pong ball.
a cat toy.
Cat toy, sorry. That is a hollow ball, or air ball, I think they call them.
Golf ball, to be honest.
It is it's a bit heavy actually, that one. And I made this little spiral cat toy.
Again, because we got.
Again,
They liked it.
the cats took the last one. Nick Barnes says, neat, that looks very strong versus the last one you printed. Yeah, the other one I printed, I've got that bit on my desk now, that is pointless. I did also do, where are we? Got these ones as well. These are for slightly smaller keyboards. Still works pretty good. It's quite a nice job, but yeah, not as sturdy really. But it's quite handy, some of the things you can do. I am struggling to get to the grips with that 3D printer, I'll be honest. I do need to spend more time playing around with it.
I left time on Breaking Bad.
Less time watching Breaking Bad, yeah. I've been watching Breaking Bad again this week. I've been very much enjoying that. Seeing all the bits that I must have missed the first time round.
And the second and third.
And the third and fourth and fifth, yeah. AJ Haverkamp says they just add some scrap metal to make it feel expensive. Well, the Keychron keyboards, because they're supposed to be custom keyboards, but you can buy them fully built. So they actually include the tools in the packaging to take it all apart. So you can actually see what is inside it. And taking this apart, you've got a aluminium top deck, but the top is plastic, the bottom is plastic, but underneath the plastic, like before you get to the PCB, there's a metal plate which runs the full width, obviously. Then in between that, you've got another layer, and you've got sound deadening foam, and then you've got the battery in the bottom, and then also you've got another very thick silicon like base level as well. So the silicon is for sound dampening. You've got a layer between the keyboards, and yeah, it's just, these are these are Keychron's K-Pro brown switches. They're actually quite nice. Nice feel to them. And it is Bluetooth and wired, so you can use it either. It's pretty good. There will be a review coming out for that. They've also given us a discount code as well. So when we do the review, there will be an additional discount. So if you want to pick one up, you can get a better price.
Matthew Date said, didn't know Google owned Fitbit. When did they take over?
Yeah, Google bought Fitbit about, I don't know if it's that long, but actually it might have been. Yeah, Google have owned Fitbit for quite a long time. But they've only recently got it so that if you've got a Fitbit account, you've got to have a Gmail account or Google account.
But they wanted, when they first brought it in, they wanted to charge you for your own data that you did on your band that you paid loads for.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
So that's why I got rid of it.
Snake Soldier says hello, how are you doing?
And there's one above actually. Cyberclue. Have you watched the Time Bandits TV show?
I have not watched that, no. I almost watched BMX Bandits the other day, but I started watching it and I had to turn it off because it was awful. AJ says, tuned like the sound a car door makes. It's a science by itself. I remember back in the 80s, there was a program called You Bet. And someone come on and they bet that they could memorize the sound of, I think it was 100 different car doors closing. And if they picked out 20 of them at random, they would identify them. And they did it. Just by hearing a car door slam, they said the exact model of the car. And it's like, wow, that's kind of nuts. So yeah, the sound a car door makes is heavily tuned, especially for some premium cars. Garfield says, I can't use mechanical keyboards. My colleagues would kill me in the office, so I use Logitech MS keys. Yeah, they're not great for workplaces sometimes. Snake Soldier says, someone know if I have to use the Intel default or Asus OC on Asus BOSS with a 12100F. I'm a little lost. To be honest with you, the 12100F, you shouldn't have any issues at all. So I would probably go with the Asus Performance BIOS. If you go with the Intel defaults, it might actually reduce the processor performance a little bit. You don't have any issues with that at all. You won't find any instability. It's a very low wattage part. There's more than enough substrate for the ring bus, if that is the problem. You shouldn't get any issues with that at all. Hoop says, I can't get used to mechanical keys. I've tried. I didn't like mechanical keyboards. I hated them. Our son used to buy them, and it's like, why have you got that? It's horrendous. Give me a standard Microsoft Internet keyboard all day long. But now I struggle to use a membrane keyboard. I don't like using them. I do find the mechanical ones, once you get used to it, it's very hard to go back. I suppose it's like anything, really. Right, what else? Oh, yeah, what Rick says, so Ryzen 9000 thoughts. Well, that is the next on the agenda to speak about. So obviously, unless you've lived under somewhat of a rock and you're not into PCs, you will know that the Ryzen 9000 series has been launched this week to a pretty dismal review cycle, really, to be honest with you. So originally they were given all sorts of things saying that the 9700X was going to be a little bit faster than the 7800X 3D in games, which it isn't. It's not even close. So to kind of make it easy, the 9700X is effectively a 7700X, but running at 65 watt TDP rather than whatever the other, I think it's 105 or 95 that the other one is. So to be fair, and this is something which I think some people are glossing over a little bit, but when Zen came out, the Zen 4 came out, and the AM5 socket came out, it was like pretty cool. This is like, there's some pretty decent uplift here over the AM4. But much like the 5800 and the 5900, 5950, they were starting to run a little bit on the warm side. And anyone who was an early adopter of the 5800X knows that there was that initial kind of culture shock where even if you'd gone from like a 3900X and then put in a 5800X, suddenly you're challenged with this new processor, which seems to want to reach kind of 80 to 90 degrees quite easily. Whereas previously, most of the Ryzen chips, they would quite happily settle down with like all core loads, sort of 65, 70 degrees, maybe 75 degrees with a reasonable cooler. And if you had an AIO, you had no worries at all. But the 5800X, when that came out, it just changed the kind of the entire landscape. And suddenly it's like, maybe you need water cooling to keep the temperatures in check. And of course, when the AM5 platform came out, all of the CPUs were designed to hit 95 degrees Celsius, or that was their kind of thermal limit, or TJ max. So they were happy to run up to that speed, that temperature rather. But for most people, that isn't really acceptable. You don't want your processor really getting over about 70 degrees if you can possibly help it, because that's like a comfortable zone, and you can set your fans up and your profiles and keep your PC nice and quiet. Whereas when you start going up to like the 90s, the first thing that most people would notice is that pretty much all motherboard manufacturers set up their fan profiles to what we were used to previously, like CPUs getting to like 70 degrees. So you find that even just on your Windows desktop, maybe you open up Chrome or something, straight away your fans were ramping like crazy. So the real takeaway of this is the 9000 series, they do appear to have some significant technology advancements. But as I was thinking this actually last night, as I was just going to bed and thinking, what's a good analogy of what AMD have done? And the analogy that I can think of, which actually works really well, is the new Noctua D15 or the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3. So if you look at either one of those two products, so look at the Liquid Freezer, look at the version 2 versus the version 3. So you've got new impeller, new pump design, new cold plate, new pipes, new radiator fin channels, new radiator fin size, thicker radiator. So there's like at least 8 key differences between the two. Yet, if you benchmark the two next to each other, you're looking at probably maybe kind of margin of error difference, maybe 2 to 5 degrees difference between the two. So even though it's been a couple of years and they've got all of these enhancements, even down to having a dedicated Intel mounting bracket and all that kind of stuff, and offset mountings and all that kind of stuff, it's basically the same as the old thing. And the same goes with the Noctua, the D15, the new one. It's pretty much the same as the old one. Again, there's an absolute laundry list of all of the improvements and changes that's been made to it, but it's still basically a D15 because there's only so much you can do. And the AMD 9000 series is kind of the same deal. So it's the very similar architecture, a few architectural improvements. Again, there's a laundry list of things which they say they've changed, but the reality is it's maybe a couple of % better than the predecessor. But in this instance, the wattage is considerably less and heading towards kind of 40% less, which actually is a sizable difference. So if you could have a 7700X running at 65 watts and still getting the same performance, you'd be pretty happy. But having said that, the 7700X now you can pick up from AliExpress relatively easy for somewhere in the region of about 150 to 180 pounds. Whereas if you look at the retail price for the 9700X, I'm pretty sure it's in the region of 300 plus. In fact, I'm going to check that now because I've not seen the prices. I've heard some of the prices in dollars, but I don't know what the actual UK retail price is at the moment. So CCL, I know, actually it doesn't seem that anyone's got them yet. Scan, I got them on pre-order for 340. So if you kind of take into consideration £340 and you're effectively getting half the wattage and performance, which is pretty good. So if you are energy conscious, then maybe you want to spend that. But £340 versus half of that, like 150, 160, 170 for 7700X, you would be absolutely off your brain to spend that sort of money for very minimal improvement. Now, if you're buying a new PC and you've got the option of a 7700X at £350 or a 9700X at £350, then of course you'd go for the newer version because it makes a total sense. But because the 7700X is available very, very cheaply, and in fact half the price is there, especially if you go to AliExpress, we've put links in videos before for this, they're insanely good prices. And actually, let me look and see what the 7700X is as a retail product on Scan as a good comparison. So yeah, the 7700X on Scan is coming in at £290. So £290 versus £340, you're paying £50 more. Is it worth £50 for a couple of percent improvement in performance, but much lower wattage? That one is one you could argue yourselves. So my suggestion would be, if you want to get a new 9700X, don't. Buy a 7700X from AliExpress and spend the rest of your money, like the extra 150 quid, on the next tier graphics card up, or 2 terabytes of storage, or 32 gigs of RAM. That would be a much better way of doing it. Hove says the 7700X is solid. Yeah, totally. And also there's the 7700 as well, which is available for a little bit less. The 7700 is about the same price on AliExpress as the 7700X. And the 7700 is also very good. In fact, that's a 7700X, sorry, a 7700 non-X in that PC there. And it runs really nicely. And it's a 65 watt part and is even undervolted as well. So yeah, it performs excellently. Very good value for money. So, 9000 series, what are your thoughts with it? I'm still really, if it wasn't for the fact I did YouTube, I would be on AM4. Because realistically, there's no real benefit of the newer platform. Yes, the processors are a little bit faster, but they're a bit more expensive. The RAM is a bit faster, but it's considerably more expensive. The motherboards are a bit better, but they're considerably more expensive. So if you don't really need the latest and greatest, you are so much better off going with AM4. Really, really are. 5700X 3D, 5800X 3D from AliExpress with a relatively decent board, something like a B550 Tomahawk or one of the ASRock Tai Chi boards. You can't go wrong. Maybe a Tough Gaming Plus from ASRock. Asus, sorry. Excellent platforms. AM4 still has a lot to offer, and especially like the 5700X 3D for about 130 quid on AliExpress. That one is definitely linked in the video description. I know, I remember leaving that in there. That is a cracking processor. You really can't go wrong with it. It is good stuff. Anyway, so 9000 series, I think we can pretty much kind of say at the moment, until we get the next bunch of reviews out for the higher end processors, like the 9600, the 9700, not worth it at all. Really not worth it at all. Well, I would not go there. Oh, Cass pointing at the screen, that means I've left the text on.
That's been there for ages.
Sorry, my mistake.
My fault, I didn't notice that.
So, obviously AMD and Intel have been struggling a lot with marketing, products themselves. Obviously Asus have had their issues as well, which most of us are kind of very aware of. And I suppose really it does warrant a very little discussion of why this is happening and your thoughts on it. Now my thoughts personally is this is COVID fatigue. So if you take into account when the research and development goes on, so most things on the market are developed 2 to 3 to 4 years in advance. So if you go 4 years ago from now, obviously COVID-19 was kicking in, and realistically the whole COVID thing lasted, I guess you'd say 2 years. I think 2 years is probably about, after that it was kind of like, okay, yeah, it is what it is. So we had those 2 years where the first year more so, I think most of the countries throughout the world were in some form of complete paralysis, whether it be through lockdowns, whether it be through the illness itself, whether it be through financial things, whatever it was. People were generally working from home, which is obviously not as productive as working from a workplace if you have to. If you're an engineer or you're somebody who does stuff hands-on, obviously, you need to be in and around people. You need to have that kind of that contact, especially when it comes down to engineering, design, all that kind of stuff. It's very much kind of doing it over an email or something. It just isn't the same as meeting a person. Hopefully you understand where I'm coming from with this. So we've got all these things, all these designs, all of these projects which were like going to be happening, which were suddenly all either shelved or the people were working in different places. They weren't communicating as well as they would normally. It was a different thing. People were concerned, obviously. People were frustrated because they were locked down. They couldn't go out, couldn't do things. So there was a lot of stuff that happened in terms of the kind of the raw output, in terms of manufacturing and all that kind of stuff. It was very much reduced, and we saw higher prices, obviously the GPU shortages and all that kind of stuff. And then we had the kind of gold rush where everyone was trying to buy stuff because they were given money to work from home. So all of that kind of happened. It kicked off, and I think from then, now we are starting to see the kind of the big payback from that era. 2 to 3 years of basically stagnation and people not working as they would normally. The times when they would be researching and obviously developing the products which we're starting to see come out on the shelves now. So you could say that, yeah, that is part of the problem. Maybe it's something else altogether. Maybe it's down to people not being paid enough for the jobs they do, people being rushed, shareholders wanting to maximize profits and get products out before they're ready. There's probably a million different reasons, but for me personally, I think a lot of what we're experiencing now, such as relatively poor or mediocre product releases and things not being quite what we expect them to be, I firmly believe it is partially to do with the kind of the COVID hangover. Okay, let me know what you think in the comments. I think it's a a justifiable thing. David Underhill says bricklayers had a major problem working from home. Oh yeah.
They went to work here.
Irie Wolfman says AMD power limited the 9600X and the 9700X because when they have more power, games run the same as with the 9900X, which costs a lot more. But if you do unlock that power limit or use PBO, you void your warranty. Is that true? I wasn't aware of that. Because AMD used to always be the company that said, well, yeah, we're going to unlock the processors and feel free to have at it. Do what you like. Interesting. Markovsky says 7000 series prices already dropping, but AM5 motherboards need to catch up a bit. RAM and storage is cheap now. I don't think it is. RAM, I don't think is particularly cheap. It's not the cheapest it's been, certainly. And storage has definitely crept up quite a bit. We were picking up 1 terabyte drives for about kind of 30 to 35 quid, whereas now you're looking more sort of 40 to 50. So I think those have definitely gone up a little bit. Intel basically doomed themselves by not recalling those CPUs. The thing is, it's a weird thing. Like outside of the PC industry and like the gaming industry, if you spoke to anybody on the streets or even in the stocks and shares market, the chances are they would not have a clue what is going on with Intel at the moment. Not a clue. And a lot of people just don't care. They don't care. You think the majority, well, PC gaming industry in general is roughly about 5% to 10% of Intel's total chipset and chips production. It's a really, really small fragment of the market. So even if they piss off 5% of their market, they still got their 95% to see to. Now, I know that's not the way you should look at it, but the reality is, as it is with AMD, as it is with NVIDIA, gamers, you and me, we are a very, very small part of that pie. A very, very slither wedge of the total market. So if things happen to us, it's kind of, yeah, and obviously in our own little bubble, we all go onto YouTube. You've got your subscribe channels. They're mostly, obviously, I guess, tech channels and other things. That's why you're here. So you are more influenced because it's in your bubble. But most people have no idea what's going on. Some market traders might be aware because obviously Intel shares dropping as rapidly as they did. That's kind of big news. But for most people, it's just like another day. They don't care. Doesn't make any difference. And for a lot of people, I would say the ones it probably affects the most are probably arguably male and in their 25 to 45 year age group, maybe a little bit longer. Because those are the target audience and the people that are most likely to be buying Intel processors. Younger children, PC's a little bit unstable, they don't care. Mum, Dad, PC's not working. Take it to PC World or take it to Best Buy or wherever to get it fixed. So again, out of that really wide game user base, the 5% base, the actual people that really give a damn, again, is a really small segment. Because kids don't really care. A lot of older people don't play games, so they're never going to notice it anyway. So again, you've got the gamer group or the PC retail group, and then a really small segment. So we're probably, I don't know, 2 to 3% of that entire market at most. It's not a big deal. It is to us, and it is to the industry, the gaming industry, but to the wider markets, it's water off a duck's back. AJ says, I think gaming is less than 1%. Office PCs sell by the millions. Yeah, I think I'm talking more like retail in general. A lot of office PCs will be bought as part of retail stuff, rather than being like business to business sales. But yeah, you're probably right. It probably is a very, very small percentage. David says like 1%. It is. I was being probably overly generous. Soul Blade says, I was an Intel guy for years, but when Ryzen came out, I went Team Red and never looked back. Duke Man says, but if you start having problems in the workstation market, yeah, that is when the shit is going to hit the fan more so. So I was reading through the comments here. Ira Wolfman says, the majority of PC sales are laptops. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that at all. Kiefer Mercer, I'll be waiting until the dust settles on this upcoming generation of GPUs to decide to finally upgrade from a GTX 1660 Super. Rasher says, my old AMD system's still chugging along well. Good. Okay, so I think that is that. Right, what else have we got? Okay, so we've got two topics now, which are kind of almost intertwined. So we'll discuss them both at the same time and see what your thoughts are. Now, some of you probably don't care less about this because it's a very low-end part of the market, but for a lot of us who build budget PCs, might actually be important. So, two stories, one of which, AMD are ending production of the RX 6600 series of graphics cards, which is not unexpected because obviously the other ones, 6800s and 6900s, they finished a long time ago. 67s, I think, are stopping as well, if they haven't stopped already. So basically, AMD are saying the 6000 series is kind of dead. It kind of was on arrival, but it's worse now. They've cancelled it altogether. But on the flip side, there are two new rumoured GPUs coming out from Team Red. One of which is the 7300, and also there's a 7400. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out which two cards they will be replacing. So in my mind, the 7300 is going to be replacing the 6500 XT, and the 7400 is likely to replace the 6600. We don't have prices, we don't have clear specifications yet, but it does appear that they are potentially both using remnants, possibly, of the 7600 die. So it's going to be obviously chopped down. So my thoughts on it is RX 7600s, which didn't cut the mustard, will end up being 7400s and possibly 7300s. That seems very likely. Now again, we don't have prices at the moment. We don't have any performance numbers, but if the 7400 can give you the same output as a RX 6600, possibly at 75 watts or less, i.e. not needing a separate GPU plug, that could be a very interesting proposition for a lot of people, and also a very easy plug-in upgrade for literally millions of desktop PCs around the world without really any hassle at all. Just plug it into a PCI Express slot and you're off to the races, possibly quite literally. So I think that is actually quite an interesting development. Again, the 7300, if that comes out and is a successor, maybe even slightly better than the 6500 XT, which, to be fair, is not going to be that hard a task, is it? And comes in at slightly lower wattage, but similar performance levels or better, that could be the media center GPU of choice by a country mile. Because obviously there's nothing NVIDIA have got. Nothing at all, which even comes close. The RTX 3050 is an awful card, extremely expensive, and only 6 gigs of RAM. It has been rumoured that both the 7300 and the 7400 will both contain 8 gigabytes of RAM as standard, with the possibility of a 12 gig version as well, which seems unlikely, but you never know. So those are kind of interesting developments. I really like the RX 6600. For me, that's been a great card. I've probably owned about 7 of those now. They've gone off on various PCs, and in actual fact, one went off this week in the PC that I sold, which was the Intel PC from last week, which sold basically within 6 hours, which was quite outstanding. I had a PC, the Intel PC, which was, it started off at £600, went down to £550, 12400 on a B760 platform, and a few people interested, no real concrete offers, a couple of lowballs and that sort of thing. And that was about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Literally the same day that I listed the other one, the AMD version, within a couple of hours, someone who bought a PC from me previously said their brother wanted one and they'd be in touch. And I was like, well, when? Oh, they're about 15 minutes away from you. Is that right? Can you get it ready? It's like, 15 minutes? Christ, give me half an hour. And literally within 6 hours, it was done, dusted, boxed up, money in the account. So yeah, that was brilliant, which again highlights the Intel mindset versus AMD. Now, I do understand it was about £50 cheaper. It didn't have Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, and it was an older motherboard. Arguably a less powerful processor as well. But still, it sold, and it does seem that AMD has got the mind share of the budget builder and the budget buyer. So,
What did it sell for?
£500 exactly. Which I think if I totaled it all up, I think it owed me about 509. So I lost a tenner, which in the grand scheme of things, to actually get it out of the house, I was pretty happy with that. Soulblade says, I think the RX 7400 will be RX 6650 performance. I'd like to think so. There isn't a huge amount between the 6600 and the 6650, but I'm very willing to do that. And also, there has been talk that they will have the dual encoder engines in them as well. So both encode and decode on board, which obviously the 6500 XT didn't have. I think they had decode only. I'm not sure about the 6600, whether that had encode as well. It might have done. But I don't think either one had AV1 support, so AV1 support will be included as well. Which again, for media center sort of setup, cracking, absolutely cracking. iWolfman says 7300 is 6 GB, 100 watts. 7400 is 8 gig, 150 watts. Ooh. See, I can't see how the 7400 can be 150 watts when the 6600 was 100 watts. It makes no sense at all, because it's on a smaller fabrication. So it should be more efficient and use less power. And I think the 7300 6 gig being 100 watts sounds a little bit high. But we'll see, no doubt, as soon as there's more firm stuff out there to find out. But yeah, I thought it was quite an interesting development. It'd be nice to see something on the market at a sensible price, which is obtainable, and yeah, people can get along with. That'd be great. Okay, so that's that story anyway. What else is there? I don't think that is it. I was going to mention about illness, but we've kind of mentioned that already in the Mub family. So yeah, if you, well, obviously you know who you are that I'm mentioning. If you are watching, then God bless and Godspeed. That's all I can say really. And me, Kath, and the rest of the Mub community are thinking of you and saying our prayers, and just do what you can. Get through it. Get strong. Get well. And we'll see you on the other side, hopefully. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think what we'll do is, I'll actually kind of wrap that up a little bit quicker than I intended to. So, I did write more things on there, but the K10 Pro, we had a quick look at that, so that's okay. The Thermalright cooler we looked at in the review previously. So I'm looking at my notes here underneath the camera.
You actually have notes?
I wrote notes tonight.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, stream topics it says. Intel microcode, AMD 9000 series, Intel and AMD marketing fail, stroke COVID, 7300, 7400 AMD GPUs, AMD ending RX 6600 series, sold the Intel AMD PC, illness and Mub family, TR AIA review, K10 Pro. Yeah, that's it. Covered everything. Excellent stuff. So, total board power. iWolfman says, got you. Okay. That'd be a shame. Soulblade says, that's why I think it's a rebranded RX 6650 because of the power draw. Yeah, RX 7500 is still possibly one that might be incoming. Although I think AMD have probably got too much in that mid-range. A bit too much choice. But then they are selling them, so I don't know. William Bodie said, Mike, did you look up Kale Box Pink? I'll be honest with you, no, I didn't. I'm going to do that now. Let's have a look. Kale. I do love this keyboard, even though I can't spell. Kale Box. Oh, they're not cheap, are they? I'm just having a look at them on AliExpress. So, Kale Box Crystal Pink keyboard switch. Oh, they're clicky, are they? How much? 3 pieces, 5 pieces. Yeah, they want £3.22 for 5. That seems expensive. They do look nice though. I will ship to South Gloucestershire, that's fine. There you can see the desktop in the chat. So that is the ones. Kale Box Crystal Pink. I think that's the ones you were mentioning. Yeah, they look nice. I'm not sure about clicky though. So look, what else we got? What are they saying? Kale. Crystal Pink keyboard switch. North facing RGB by the look of it. What's the, so operational force 55 grams. Pre-force is 65, so got a little bit of weight to them. Tactile bump, total travel 3 points. 3 points. So they got quite a long travel. Oh, no, conduction travel. Sorry, they've got this all set up wrong. So 1.8 mil. That's quite shallow. Yeah. Interesting. I do like keyboard stuff. Let's go back to the main camera. So yeah, I'm not too sure whether or not I'll go for those. I do actually need some south-facing keycaps with shine through.
Well, that's just the way your trousers
are. Kiefer says, hopefully Intel's GPUs put some price competition into the market. Wishful thinking. Yeah. I would love... Apparently Battlemage have been spotted in the wild. So it won't be long. Hopefully it'll be better. Rasher says, what's the keyboard, Mike? I want an all-white one. Oh, well, this one. This is the Ducky 06108. And it is very much white. There's lots of white. Oh, yeah. I was thinking, it hasn't got a number lock light, but it has. Some keyboards don't have a number lock light, and that upsets me. But yeah, this is very nice. I like the Ducky keyboards. And the shine through keycaps, I think, is a really nice thing. I was sat at my desk the other day trying to do some typing on the Keychron. The Keychron, in the daytime, when you've got light on it, is an absolute beauty. And it's got a really, really nice feel to it. But as soon as it gets dark, because the RGB is south facing, actually, let me turn it on. Which one is it? That one. So it's going to try, actually it's going to try and connect, isn't it? Which it won't. Because it's not connected to, oh yes, actually it's connected to my PC, that's right. So, is it actually on? Oh yeah, I've turned the brightness down. Now I've got to try and remember the hotkeys for the brightness. Function. Is that doing it? No. Yeah, that one there. So, there. It has got a little bit of RGB to it. And you can change that by pressing the RGB button. This one you can control via CMK firmware, and you can use the Keychron. If you type into your browser launcher.keychron, it opens up basically the VIA app, but tailored towards Keychron, so you can go in and change your key settings and all that kind of stuff. Which is quite nice because it's fully open source, so you can take it apart, swap out all the bits, change the software, change the firmware, do whatever you want to it, really. But it is a heavy beastie, so I'm going to turn that off and put it back down. Dougman says, no problem if you use a monitor light bar. That is something that I'm actually seriously considering, because I think that would be helpful to have a light bar coming down onto my desk. I was offered one for a review ages and ages ago, and I was like, why the hell would I want one of those? And it's like, now I know exactly why. Soleil says, nice looking keyboard. Are those mechanical? Yes. Wolfman says, I want to see some shine through for the Keychron. Hard to see the keys in the dark. Yeah, that is a problem. With the K10 Pro, there's two options. You can buy the ABS keys with shine through, or you can buy the PBT ones with solid. Both of them are double shot, but they didn't have the shine through version available at the time, and it was on special offer, so I was like, whatever. I've actually ordered from AliExpress a bunch of keycaps, shine through keycaps, which I could use on there. They are put-in style as well, so you get a little bit more extra glow. So I might be doing that. Dutch Jan says, question, what is that? The RGB is south facing. Let me show you. Let me grab a keycap puller. Actually, I haven't got a keycap puller to hand, have I? That's right. I've got one in the box. Actually, just get my switch puller as well. So if you actually, I'll turn this back on. I'll put the overhead camera on. I wish they'd make this a little bit bigger so you can actually see it. Right. So if we go with the overhead camera, hopefully you can, yeah, you can see it, can't you? Okay. So if we take off, let's take the escape key off, for example. So if you look there, the RGB is at the bottom. So that is what is known as a south-facing RGB. If we take a look at the ducky, if I take off the control key, which hopefully won't mess up anything, you see the RGB is at the top. So that is a north-facing RGB. So most keycaps, if you look at the actual legend on them, the legend is always towards the top. On some it's towards the bottom. So if it's a legend with the top, obviously with a north-facing RGB, it's going to light up better. If you put one of these onto a south-facing, it's a little bit dimmer. But you can get keycaps where they actually, rather than have the legend on the top, they got them on the side, in which case they look amazing because it's completely blank on the top, but shine through looking towards you. So, yeah, hopefully that understands it. Hopefully that understands it. That was terrible English. Anyway, there you go. There, you have learnt a thing. David Andrew says, sad that direction of ARGB is a feature. Yeah, it kind of is, isn't it? Viali says, my Asus K7 is the same as the Ducky. Nice. Rasher says, is it beer spill proof? No. Sound has stopped. Oh, was it? One, two, 1, 2. Is the sound working? Mike, talk goodly. Words is hard. Isn't it not working? Is it all gone pear-shaped? Words are hard. They are. Is it working? Yes, says Paul Lamont. Okay. Sound is fine. Okay. Sound is fine, just not my voice. I gotcha. Soulblade says, actually, this is a good point. I know some people hate RGB. I don't know why when you can choose static colours for it. That is a really good point. Sounds great. Okay. Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Cheers, Carl. Right. Okay. I am. My voice is actually struggling. Last night, for the first time in ages, like sometimes I get this acid reflux. And last night I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning, and just a really bad one. And I came down, and my throat was literally on fire. Well, it wasn't literally on fire, obviously, because yeah. Anyway, you get the idea. It's like basically stomach acid in your throat. It's not. It's a horrible feeling if you ever had it. So I was thinking, have I got any antacids anywhere? I'm thinking, no, I don't think I have. So I came down, milk, glugged a load of milk, and was like coughing and spluttering whilst trying to do it because it's still burning my throat. And then like bit of milk went down the wrong way as well, so that didn't help. And then I thought, right, what else have I got? It was like when you have one of these really hot chilies. So next is like, right, what ice cream have we got? So just like throwing some ice cream down my throat, and that sort of tamed it a little bit, but still like coughing and spluttering. And it's still a little bit scratchy at the back of my throat, but it'll be okay. We'll be okay. We'll live. David Andrews says, Mike is a graduate of the Trump public speaking class. I really wish I could do Trump accent. I really do, because some of his mannerisms are absolute classics. William Boney says, question, can you say calculator in Bristol English for a letter? She likes it. Calculator. I don't know if I've said that weirdly or not. Sounds, John Doe says, yeah, hate acid reflux. Oh yeah, it was horrible. Who says, oh man problems, yeah. Joe says Trump is hilarious. He definitely is. The whole American political system, and also the English one, and probably all around the world, they're all hilarious. They really are. They get asked a question, and then they spend like 5 minutes giving an absolute waffle sandwich of basically not answering the question. I just wish that more TV shows and interviewers would have the balls to say, stop. Look, if you don't want to answer the question, just say, I don't want to answer the question. Don't give me this flannel. But they'll be like, well, I'm trying to answer the question. It's like, you're not. You're really not. You're just talking until we kind of lose interest and ask another question. It's good. Major12 says, so the title, did it break your PC? It did. Word salad. Thank you, Jojo. It did break my PC. The PC is working now, and it is stable. But due to the 0x129 microcode update, it was very unhappy. Very unhappy indeed. And in fact, it was the worst I've seen that PC ever be. So what was intended to be the fix-all actually made it the worst possible thing could happen, especially because it is my production PC, which I probably shouldn't mess around with my production PC, but sometimes you just got to grab the bull by the horns. You never know, it could have been great. But no, it tanked performance and it made it extremely unstable, and it refused to run Time Spy to any conclusive result, which is rubbish. Is it a beta version? Yes, it is. Actually, I can get it up on the screen. There was actually something quite interesting about that as well, which, well, it was interesting for me. Yours, DeBell. Hey Mike, glad you fixed it. Yeah, I kind of did. So let's go back to the stream desktop. So it's an Asus TUF Gaming Z790 BTF Wi-Fi, and you can see here, hopefully you can see that okay. For some of you on smaller screens, you probably won't be able to. But it says there, beta version. It's quite clearly marked as a beta version, so obviously take the rough with the smooth. So the new BIOS update includes Intel microcode 0x129 and adjusts the factory default settings for the non-K processors, enhancing the stability of Intel Core 13th and 14th gen desktop processors. Now, I've read that a couple of times now, and it still to me says the same thing. So the new BIOS includes Intel microcode and adjusts the factory default settings for the non-K processors. So it almost sounds to me like this is not designed for my processor anyway, which would explain why it was horrific. So yeah, that was the BIOS update. Should I have not installed it? I'm starting to think that I shouldn't have done, but it is a BIOS update. It says it's a beta version, and it says it's the microcode 0x129, which is what supposedly we are supposed to need. But yeah, it's really, so when it says adjusts the factory default settings for non-K processors, now from what I understand, the non-K processors generally aren't affected by it. So I'm guessing that is a typo. That is my initial reaction. It literally came out last night, so I don't know. It's a weekend, obviously, so maybe it'll be updated. Maybe there'll be another beta version coming up very shortly, in which case I can test it and I can still use my data and hopefully get some kind of some sort of closure on the whole thing, because it's driving me a bit mad now. But the system as it stands at the moment, I am using the Intel performance defaults with the extreme profile, but I have turned off the Asus performance enhancement. That was set to auto previously. I've actually taken that off, and I've disabled ETVB, the enhanced thermal velocity boost. So I am limited now to 5.5 gigahertz, but we'll see. Hopefully it'll be hopefully it will be okay. Major12 says the 0x125 previous version, I had no problems until now. Yeah, I said earlier in the stream at the beginning, up until now, my system had been pretty much A1 perfect, almost all the way through. So yeah, it's... O'Reilly says, I would say the same, Mike, you should not have used that update. Paul Lamont says, can you reverse it? You cannot reverse the management engine. So actually, let's go back to that. So if you look on the screen, it does say there, updating this BIOS will simultaneously update the corresponding Intel ME to version 16.130.2307 v4. Please note, after you update this BIOS, the management engine version remains the updated one, even if you roll back to an older BIOS later. So from that wording, the management engine is kind of like the underlying firmware of the motherboard. So you've got your BIOS level, then you've got your kind of firmware level. And the management engine is basically the kind of the firmware. So that kind of rules the roost. The BIOS, you can make other small changes, but the actual management engine is kind of like the real kind of the substrate of the whole thing. So yeah, not being able to undo that, I don't think changing the BIOS version would do a great deal. But I did notice actually in the BIOS there is an option to use a different microcode. But because they put that in there, I'm guessing that bit's going to be removed now. So you won't have the option to roll back a microcode. Gilbert says, ASUS beta versions will become final versions. The description from the ASUS team are always a mess. Yes. This is very true. Bikeman17 says, well, still we'll check dust situation of the Lian Li Lancool 216 in the morning to make sure front fan is fan 1 spot on the included fan hub. Oh yeah, of course, yeah. In case, well, unless real life interferes with plans. Gotcha. O'Reilly says, the fact that Intel have non-letter CPU and CPUs with multiple letters, so T, KF, K, etc. So yeah, a bit of a mess, and typos in image notes don't help. No, definitely. It's a strange thing. David Underhill says the ME is the actual interface between the real microcode and the UEFI. Yeah, so it's like, I think of it as being like kind of like a base layer. Major says, strange non-K version, kind of misleading from the ASUS parts. Yeah, I'm actually tempted to look on another board from ASUS and see if their description is the same. I didn't think of that actually before. So let's think of another motherboard. So ASUS Z790. Let's try the Creator Wi-Fi. That's a very similar board. Driver and tools, BIOS and firmware. Right, okay, so I'll switch back. So yeah, this is for the ProArt Z790 Creator. So yeah, it's basically the same beta version again, and yeah, they've also stated that it changes the factory default settings for the non-K processors, enhancing the stability of Intel 14th and 14th gen desktop processors. Now actually, that's an interesting thing there. It says, oh yeah, before running the BIOS USB flashback tool, please rename it. And I wasn't sure if I needed to rename it or not, so I didn't bother. But yeah, if you are doing it as a BIOS flashback from USB, then you'll have to do that. So, I guess, as with most things, it's going to be kind of watch this space, and we'll see what happens. William Bodie says, so can you roll back on the BIOS? You can roll the BIOS back, but you cannot reverse the management engine, or the ME, which is the kind of underlying thing. So even if you do revert the BIOS, It will restore the settings, I guess, but some of the limits will still be active, maybe? I don't know. I'm going to leave it as it is for now because, like I said, I've got it back to being stable and also actually pretty decent performance with going back to using the ASUS Extreme profile, or sorry, the ASUS Enhanced profile and then the Extreme version of that. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. O'Reilly says, I think my last Intel CPU was a Pentium 100 MMX, and this might have been the generation with the FDIV bug. Causes with the floating point calculations, e.g. XL and non-integer values to 2dp, 2 decimal points. Awesome stuff. Right, I think that is going to pretty much wrap it up. I think we've exhausted this this conversation. I've enjoyed getting it off my chest, I'll be honest with you, because it was very perplexing. I think ASUS have probably not done themselves many favours here, or they have not clarified. I think they should have definitely said on there, if you have a K-series CPU, please wait for version blah blah blah. That will be coming shortly. But to basically say this is for non-K processors, but then is it for K processors as well? Nobody knows. No doubt we will find out as the days and weeks go on. Hopefully it's days rather than weeks, because that would be, yeah, that would. I don't want this to drag on any more than it has. It's already dragged on for way too long. And I think customers ultimately need some kind of resolution, because a lot of people have put a lot of money into this, which is not good. Customers should be looked after, or at least informed. Whether or not the lack of information is from Intel, or whether it's from the motherboard manufacturers, or whether it's a combination of the two, I don't know. And to be honest, I don't really care. As long as I'm getting the information some way, somehow. Like if they turn around and said, right, we know exactly what the problem is, this is the problem, like spelled out in detail and said, right, this is why the problem exists, this is what's happening, this is what we're planning to do, this is how we're going to try and fix this problem. We estimate that this will be done in XYZ timescale. Everyone knows what's going on. And you can say, okay, fair enough. Like in the meantime, I'll just reduce my CPU down to 65 watts or whatever it is, enforce these limits. Because you know there's like something to work towards. Whereas at the moment, it's like, well, this could not be fixed. It could be more unstable like I've had, or it could be the next BIOS update could be absolute magic. We just don't know, because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, because no one's telling us anything, which sucks. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the stream. If you have, smash the like button. That is always appreciated. If you're new here and you haven't already, maybe smash that subscribe button, and you can see me on a daily basis. Well, Monday to Friday, daily videos, and then live stream on a Saturday. No videos on a Sunday, because everyone's got to have a day off. And yeah, thank you all for your kindness as well, obviously. Thank you for your super chats, contributions, your PayPal donations, your memberships. Oh, actually, before we do, let's very quickly give away some Mike's Unboxing memberships. I'm pretty sure we've got some left to give away. So we'll give away 5 memberships to those of you in the chat, possibly. That way you'll get early access to videos, and also you'll get perks on Discord, and also you will get to be able to use emojis in the chat, which is great. There you go. So Kath's running that now, I think. Yep. There we go. So Peter Stiff has been gifted a membership. Nicholas Barlow, Rob, Kenny D, and Carl Kidling, or Kidling, whatever. Carl, enjoy your membership. Kilding, yeah.
Because you keep putting too many L's in or something.
Yeah, I know.
You're confusing
My eyesight is not the best.
Like,
that's better. Kilding. I thought there was another L after the D. Is it I? Anyway, there you go. Yeah. Hopefully you've had an enjoyable evening. It's been enjoyable for me getting it off my chest, because this has been quite frustrating. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with anyone who's suffering from ailments, but specifically the 2 which I heard about this week, which one of them is not looking good at all. The other one hopefully is going to be okay, but fingers crossed. The world moves in mysterious ways and you never know what's going to happen. So thank you all for joining us. I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend. And if you want to join us on the Discord, I will put links in the chat now. So if you want to join us for a chat on Discord, I probably won't be in there for a little while because obviously got to pack all this stuff away for the stream, but otherwise might be in there a little bit later on, if not. Working tomorrow in the shop, so not so busy on there tomorrow, but if you've got anything you want, let me know, and I will try and help you out. Anyway, I've waffled on for way too long. Good night, everybody. Say good night, Kath.
Good night.
Kath says good night, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next Saturday. Cheers. Sorry, I'm back on. I'm not sure if you can actually hear this or not, but Charles said, Mike, can you at least tell us who we should be pulling for? At the moment, I can't. I did explain it at the beginning of the stream. Until either of them say so, I cannot do that. It's not something I should be doing. Just think about our community and send out positive vibes to everybody, the whole community, and hopefully that'll be enough, at least for now. Anyway, see you all next weekend. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.